Dr. Malik, we've been talking before the break, we were talking about what the American dream was and how people could invest in that. But something drastically changed, and we saw it happen, impact the market last year. Tell us about that.
Well, I would say historically, Republicans have always been focused primarily on growth, what I call the liberty narrative. Democrats, meanwhile, have focused on maldistribution of wealth. As you know, there's been a conflict between these rival elites for leadership in America. One more entrepreneurial, business-oriented versus professional politicians, actually what have become permanent politicians, a political class, and bureaucrats and their academic elites who favor the therapeutic state. There are very few of us academics, frankly, from the Republican side, and certainly in the leading institutions. What has changed is that the Democrats are now prepared to sacrifice growth in favor of distribution, what they used to call equality, and they now refer to equity. They want equal outcomes, and that changes the entire narrative.
Yeah, you actually used the example of we've got cows, they're producing milk or meat, but they want to kill the cows, the dairy cows, and divide up the cow. Tell us about that.
Well, I think that the present permanent and overriding crisis for the Democrats, of course, is the environment, global warming, climate change, whatever Davos expression is popular this weekend. You can actually listen to Klaus Schwab. He's on TV yesterday talking about how he wants to master all of us. The survival of the human race does not depend or require infinite long-term growth, according to this view. In fact, the opposite. I think most of them think that survival is incompatible with growth. So this takes us back to the limits of growth argument published in 1971 by the Club of Rome, all which was based on a faulty MIT model. And we want now, in the words of the ESG crowd and the Davos crowd, to do away with the lifestyle of the American middle class and our standards of living. And that means killing the American dream.
Well, and what you said there is that one viewpoint wants to take us back to where we were before 1820, when the American dream really took off, where growth was less than 0.1% per year for 2,000 years, and it's been massively higher since then, and they want to return us to that, but that's a return to poverty. I mean, I look at Bono's statement recently, when Bono's talking about it, he says, I used to believe we should just distribute things better, but now I've come to realize that free market capitalism is the only way to end poverty in the world. What you're telling me is the Davos crowd really wants to reinstitute poverty, even though they're not admitting that.
Well, Bono is at Davos every year, as are the Gateses and the Soroses and Larry Finks. So it would be good if he would amplify that message at Davos where they need to hear it, because that's not what Davos is about. Davos is about stakeholder capitalism. I would argue it's not about capitalism at all. It's about an elite ruling the world in a form of globalism, and they have no interest in markets whatsoever. They have no worship or no valuation put on this Schumpeterian idea of creative destruction and the critical role of the entrepreneur in that process. No, quite the opposite. They want socialism. They would like a democratic form of socialism, but they want to be at the top of that pyramid. So this is not a temporary limit on economic growth, a pause or a relaxation of let's say, some appetite or animal spirits. No, this is the end of the dream. And as a consequence, I would say, and this is what I wrote, the end of the stock market itself. Why would anyone, you think about the people that you know and have invested with, and some of these stock market gurus even, why would anyone invest if there's no chance to profit? If profit is a negative concept? If you couldn't see your investment grow, why would you put your money in anything? You might as well put it into your mattress. So I think Wall Street doesn't want to admit it, but in a thoroughly socialist stakeholder economy, there's no need or reason for stocks. Over time, companies cease to exist. The market is dictated, and the state, through its regulatory bureaucracies, ends up controlling everything. A very dire situation, I hope we can avoid it.